Hello everyone, welcome back to Coffee with Craig. We very much appreciate you guys tuning in. This is where we talk about firearms, Second Amendment, everything 2A relating to culture, politics, advocacy, you name it, this is the place. So please, before we get started, make it a point to like and share this video with as many people as you can so that they can join into the conversation. We're doing this, streaming this live on both YouTube and Facebook. So please, 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 please make sure your friends know. The only way in which we can get the word out is with your assistance. Now keep in mind, and you guys know this, YouTube and Facebook, they have their own algorithms, and those algorithms seek to reduce or suppress anything that really focuses on firearms or the Second Amendment. So we need you to help be our megaphone. So help us out, help get that word out. Once again, like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our Facebook page. You guys have been doing a great job of that so far, and we appreciate you guys being involved in the fight. Now, let's get into today's topic. Now, you hear us talk about the fact that the Firearms Policy Coalition is the home in the fight for civil rights. And the way we see it, the Bill of Rights are all intertwined. They all impact one another. And one of the things we've seen in recent times has been where, because of the Second Amendment, because of one's belief and or desire to belief in or desire to exercise their Second Amendment rights, we've seen other fundamental rights being infringed. In particular, free speech rights. In fact, the Firearms Policy Coalition, in partnership with the Firearms Policy Foundation, has recently, just this last year alone, won at least 2 lawsuits against the state of California dealing with free speech and their attempt to squelch free speech. But see, they seem to think that it's okay when it comes to the Second Amendment because, well, hey, you know what? The Second Amendment may be a right, but it's not a right, if you know what I mean. Specifically, and we're speaking in regards to the recent student protests that took place just the other day. There were many who decided that they were going to walk out of class for 17 minutes in protest against gun violence. Now, mind you, some of the folks decided they were doing it to honor the students who were killed during the Parkland massacre. There were some who were doing it specifically because they wanted to promote gun control, and then there were some who were doing it just because they wanted to get out of class. Well, it was so bad, you even had the lieutenant governor, because keep in mind, when you walk out of class and you're not in class, you're actually breaking the rules, which is interesting that you have students who are saying we're going to break the rules in order to encourage politicians to create new rules that people are just going to turn around and break. But that's a whole nother matter. But it even got to the point where, and you guys probably had this happen in social media, if you post anything that potentially disagreed with the motives behind the march, or even stated that, well, perhaps students shouldn't be allowed to just walk out of class or not be in class for protest of a particular political thing, well, there should be a problem here. We should be, if we're going to do it for one thing, then maybe we should do it for another. Or they should be allowed to do it for anything. Or what does 17 minutes matter? Why not an hour? Why not 2 hours? Because we all know that they were out there for more than 17 minutes. So there was a teacher at Rocklin High School who decided that she wanted to, prior to the walkout, decided she wanted to raise the question, the political question about student protests, and whether or not this was something that students should support and be involved in. So let's take a look at the story and see what she did and what the response was by her school district.
Rocklin High School teacher is on paid administrative leave tonight over her views about the national school walkout.
The teacher says all she did was open up a debate about the politics of the protest in her classroom. CBS 13's Lamore Abrams is in the newsroom with an interview you'll see only on CBS 13. Lamore.
Tony and Sharon, Mrs. Benzel teaches history at Rocklin High and tells me it was only appropriate to talk to her class about the politics of organized protests ahead of the school walkout. But she says the school disagreed with her views and told her to stay home this morning.
I am aghast.
Julianne Benzel says she never discouraged her students from participating in National School Walkout, but she did question whether it's appropriate for a school to support a protest against gun violence if it's not willing to support all protests.
It's the best example I thought of at the time. If a group of students nationwide or even locally decided I want to walk out of school for 17 minutes and go in the quad area and protest abortion, would that be allowed by our administration?
She says the administration didn't talk to her about her lecture last week, but while thousands of students walked out of class Wednesday morning, Mrs. Benzel received this letter from her Human Resources Department informing her she's being placed on paid administrative leave.
I didn't get any backlash from my students. All my students totally understood that there cannot be a double standard.
Including Nick Wade, who did not walk out.
If we were to go to the school and say something like, I want to walk out for maybe abortion rights, then, they probably wouldn't let us because that's more of a conservative push.
The Rocklin School District won't say whether his teacher is in trouble because of that classroom debate. A spokeswoman provided this statement, reading in part, a Rocklin High School teacher has been placed on paid administrative leave due to several complaints from parents and students.
Very divisive inherently.
For now, Mrs. Benzel hopes the National Student Walkout prompts a bigger conversation, not just about Second Amendment gun rights, but First Amendment free speech.
But if you're going to allow students to get up and walk out of class without penalty, then you have got to be able to allow any group of student that wants to protest.
Now, Mrs. Benzel tells me she has retained legal counsel and plans to sit down with school administrators tomorrow morning.
All right, so let's be real clear. Her issue wasn't so much with what the students were protesting. Her issue was, are we going to allow students on all sides of any issue to be able to walk out of class in protest? Are students going to be punished whether you agree with the speech or not? And it has been amazing to see the number of people who are saying, oh, well, these kids are being brave. Well, you're not being brave if your civil disobedience doesn't potentially have consequences. If you know that you get up and you can walk out of class and there will be no consequences for your not being in class, well, then guess what? That's not brave. That is just simply, in particular when everybody is doing it. See, the key here with free speech is this, is that free speech, the whole First Amendment was not enshrined in our Constitution to protect popular speech. Popular speech that the government happens to agree with. In this case, the Rocklin school administration. I'm wondering what their school board members think about this. But in this case, we're talking about their administration. It's not meant to protect what they believe. It's meant to protect minority speech that could potentially be offensive. If someone wanted to get up and they wanted to, as the example that was brought up, wanted to protest abortion, and they wanted to leave class for 17 minutes in order to be able to protest abortion, should they then not have either the same freedom to do so or face the same consequences of doing so? One would think yes, except guns. See, because of guns, well, now, everything's thrown out the window. I had one guy comment on a Facebook post that I included about this particular subject. They said, well, I totally disagree with you because, well, this is a higher calling. No, it's still free speech. I don't care if you believe it's a higher calling or not. It's free speech. And the thing about free speech is that if you want to protest, if you are going to give one group the ability to protest, then you have to give all groups the ability to protest. And it doesn't matter whether or not you agree with the speech or not. By the way, it doesn't matter if the speech is offensive. Because guess what? The First Amendment was written to protect offensive speech, speech that the majority might potentially seek to shut down, speech that the powers that be, the government, might seek to shut down. Why? Because if you are allowed to speak, you might change minds. And see, in this particular case, all the teacher is saying is, well, look, if you're going to have students walking out of class, well, then maybe we ought, for one thing, then maybe they ought to have the right to walk out of class on all the others. And the worst part about it is that the lesson that the school district taught the students is, no, there is no free speech. Free speech is what we say it is. Your right to say, you have a right to say whatever we allow you to say. You do not have a right to say whatever you believe is right. That's exactly what the school district said. By punishing this teacher, they have in essence said that there is no real free speech. There is government-sponsored, government-supported speech. And for those for whom there were no consequences for walking out of class, well, now that's government-endorsed and government-funded speech, because those students weren't in class. And where do you think that money comes from? When they're not in class, when they are truant, what do you think happens to what do you think happens to that money? Yeah, the school district doesn't get money when those butts are not in the seats. So, who do you think is paying for their free speech? That would be you and I, Mr. Taxpayer, are the ones that are paying for their free speech. Because in the end, they're not paying for it because they have absolutely no consequences. And by the way, this is not the only area where this is in fact the case. When you have billboards around the state of California that are owned by the state or managed by the state, where you can't advertise anything relating to firearms or the Second Amendment. But I'm willing to bet you they would let you put an anti-Second Amendment poster up on those particular billboards. Bet you dollars to donuts, right? I'm willing to bet you they'd let you put up a whole bunch of other stuff, but they wouldn't let you put up something on the Second Amendment. Anyway, folks, I just think it's important that we make sure that we stand up for our teachers who are actually promoting. I don't know where this lady stands on this issue. I don't know where she stands on the Second Amendment. I really don't. I hear good things about her from people who have students in the district. I don't know where she stands on the Second Amendment, but I do have a good idea of where she stands on the First Amendment, and that is that rights, all civil rights, period, all civil rights are for all people all of the time. And the government does not have a right to selectively choose special people who get special privileges and then get to call them rights. Those are not civil rights. It's time for the Rocklin Unified School District to learn that particular lesson. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, as I always say, please remember, like and share these videos. Let your friends know about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Remember, we got to use them, or we're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.